guitars and sing you a country song. We'll all be flying higher than a jetliner. And if you want a little bang in your yin-yang, come along.
Hello and welcome aboard Indiana Sports Beat. Coming to you here on this Monday, as always, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Jim Coyle with you, Dillonson with you as well from the Journal of Fort Wayne. How's it going, my friend? How was your weekend?
I'm good. It was a wild weekend. A lot happened. We have a lot to get to, and we're gonna another full show.
Boy, oh boy. Don Fisher will be on with us, of course, the voice of the Hoosiers. Matt Taylor from the Colts, gigantic win for them as, man, they keep on rolling as well. But, of course, the College Football Invitational Committee, that's the big news. That's what we're going to be talking about as things are set now. And I know Indiana fans are livid, as they should be. They have gotten royally screwed. But here's the thing. Here's who they need to be mad at. They need to be mad at their own school for not having that athletic director. That's Scott's fault. He just knew he's a rookie. He has no power. You can blame your president for never being there to support your athletics program and being an outgoing lame duck and not giving even less of a care that he ever has. But then you've got the Big Ten, which has royally screwed Indiana up one side and down the other. You got Gary Boughton Soda, the AD from Iowa. You have the Big Ten has the AD running the committee, and this is the best you can do. Nobody was fighting for Indiana, but of course we saw comments from Fred Glass yesterday, Dylan, that says there's people that do not want Indiana to be and I can see that. I mean, you don't want anybody else getting successful in this league. It's a tough league. And Iowa, yeah, why would they want Indiana to rise? Because they're very similar, I think. And they don't want Indiana to pass them in football because, man, that would be really bad. And when you have the AD that's running that committee, that's a lot of power. And if you're going to tell me that is not what went on in there, that's ludicrous. This is a one-loss team that lost by a score to a team that they have insisted on being one of the best in the country, yet they're not good enough for anything else. Just ridiculous. I'm off my soapbox. There you go, Dylan. There's to start the show.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that's obviously the big news of the weekend, and Indiana fans obviously have a right to be upset. There are so many different ways that the committee looked at this when it came to Indiana against Ohio State, and that was the thing, is that they used Indiana as a prop to say that Ohio State had a good win.
Top 10 win. They kept saying a top 10 win.
Yes, to get into the playoff. And then when it came to giving the same respect to Indiana, they said, well, they haven't beaten anyone and they lost to Ohio State. So they're had a good season, but they're not up with the big boys. And that's the logic was just very, very circular. And it just seems, and yeah, I mean, we've been saying this for weeks. The committee had devalued Indiana since the middle of the season when the rankings first came out, and they were 12th, and the poll had Indiana 8th. And so it's just tough because we saw this coming a mile away, and there's just nothing you can do about it as someone in Indiana, because clearly you need more as an Indiana football program. You need to do this over multiple seasons before anyone gives you any respect.
Well, you do. But here's the thing. Why does Cincinnati get respect? Why does Coastal Carolina get respect? Because they're the flavor of the month? Because they beat no one. And they had no one on their schedule to beat except for Coastal Carolina, who added BYU and took care of that. But it's just weird because you don't have anybody fighting against those guys. You have people apparently fighting for Indiana's rise, which makes that's just odd. But who's going to stop anybody else from rising? It's just a weird thing. But Indiana's going to have to get someone to fight for it. They're going to have, I mean, their athletic director is going to have to start. I know Scott is new into the job, and it's kind of putting pressure on him. Now, with Fred Glass's comments that came out yesterday, that would have been a lot more helpful had he made those comments while he was athletic director at Indiana instead of waiting for a year afterwards. I mean, that's nice and all, but how about that support when you're actually in a position to do something?
Yeah, and I mean, we don't. And to be fair to him, we don't know exactly what he was doing behind the scenes while he was athletic director to
True.
to push Indiana. And we don't know how Fred Glass would have handled the same situation as what happened this season. But it does put Scott in a little bit of a tough position. Fred's comments, because obviously, if Fred has these thoughts, that it's something that you can see happening behind the scenes. If Fred knows it's happening, so it puts Scott in a little bit of a tough position, because obviously at this point he does have to start politicking for Indiana, and you hate to see that, because like you don't want to have to be politicking for your team, right? You want the
shouldn't have
system
to.
you shouldn't have to. Yes, the way the system is set up, you shouldn't have to, but Indiana clearly does, and that's something.
Absolutely.
It's
Hey, we're fortunate enough to have the great legend, the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher, with us now. Don, how are you, sir?
Good day, Jim. How are you?
Well, we're getting by. We're talking about the College Football Committee's decisions. Indiana going to the Outback Bowl, which, ironically, a year ago, we a lot of Hoosier fans would have been very happy with that, and still celebrate all the things that they've done. But at the same time, feel Indiana was not done right by the committee, and but they're gonna have to deal with how they deal with it.
Well, there's no question. I think Tom Allen put the absolute correct face on everything yesterday in his press conference afterwards, basically saying we'll deal with some of the disappointment of where we're going and all that kind of thing later on. Right now, we're going to embrace the fact that we're going to Tampa and we're going to play in the Outback Bowl. And obviously, it's a homecoming for a lot of the players in this Indiana roster, and there's no doubt that these kids, at least it's a consolation for a lot of these guys going back to where they played their high school football, and at least in the state, certainly, and a lot of them from the Tampa area itself. So there's a lot of positives in regard to the Outback Bowl. I don't think there's any question. It's an upgrade from the Gator Bowl that was played in last year, which was a really good bowl from Indiana's perspective. And this year it doesn't feel quite as good because everyone thought that it was going to be a New Year's Day 6 bowl, or it could have been a New Year's Day 6 bowl, or the Citrus, and neither one of those came to fruition. So I think Tom Allen did exactly when he put the right picture out there in regard to how Indiana should deal with this. You've got to go down there and face a really good Ole Miss team, even though they're 4-5 on the year. It's one of the most prolific offenses in the country, if not, I don't know if it's number one, but it's got to be in the top 3, I would think. And I haven't looked at all the statistics yet, but I know that they're averaging well over 540 yards a game. But they also give up over 540 in games, so it's going to be an interesting test, to say the least. And when you score 48 points against LSU and 48 points against Alabama and still lose ball games, you know that their defense is a little bit suspect. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, to say the least. And I'm looking forward to it.
Absolutely. It's Lane Kiffin, so that we can stop right there because the fun will begin as we assure that'll happen. But, yeah, it's a great bowl for Indiana, no doubt. And Fred Glass came out, his comments yesterday, I found those very interesting. That's not an area I had thought that was the reason, but still interesting to see the former AD with some strong comments.
Well, I'm sure that Fred had some strong comments about it, but he's not the AD now. It's Scott Nelson. And so I understand. Well, look, everybody in the Hoosier Nation's upset about this, as I think they should be, but there's nothing we can do about it. It's that simple. And so to sit here and lament on it and be upset and all those kinds of things, embrace what you have. And I think, again, Tom Allen put the right picture and the right face on this whole thing as he talked yesterday in the press conference afterwards. There's not a thing we can do about it, and we'll address it after this whole thing is over with. Right now, we embrace the fact that we're going to the Outback Bowl and we're playing against an Ole Miss team that Tom, of course, coached at one point in his career. So there's a lot of familiarity between these two ball clubs with the coaching staff and a lot of the players, and, of course, the ties to both Florida and to Ole Miss. So, look, we can sit here and bellyache about it all the time, but there's no good reason to do so. Right now, you just have to embrace what's in front of you, and what's in front of us is the Outback Bowl, and I think everybody looks forward to it.
Absolutely. And not only that, it's an opportunity for Indiana to get that first bowl win that they have been chasing since 91, I think, in the Copper Bowl against Baylor. But it also against some irony against one of Tom Allen's old teams and an SEC team on top of that. So some nice caveats added to that.
Absolutely. There's no question. And this is going to be a test for this Indiana defense because nobody's been able to stop this team this year. I mean, Arkansas is probably the one team that gave them the biggest amount of trouble, and they gave up they 21 against Arkansas in a loss, 33-21. But everybody else that they played, they scored. I mean, big numbers against. Auburn was another one that they were held to 28. But those are the films I'd be looking at if I'm the coaching staff, just to see what they did to slow this offense down. And they got beat by LSU simply because they threw the ball away too many times. Their quarterback looked rusty, apparently, and he is one of the best quarterbacks in the country, both running and throwing the football. Really exciting, and one of those guys that can beat you with either his arm or his legs. And they've got just a lot of tools on the offensive side. But again, they give up a lot of points too. So Jack Tuttle and the offense are going to have to play really well at this juncture, and I think that they are capable of doing that. And I love the fact that Tuttle's going to have a couple of weeks to get ready for this ball game on top of everything else. So this football team of Indiana's, I think, is special. I really do. I agree with Tom Allen on that. I think these kids have busted their tails this year. They proved everybody wrong for the most part, and they're just looking to do the same thing again in this ball game. So they'll go into it with a chip on their shoulder. There's no question about it. And I love the attitude right now from the coach.
Absolutely. And I thought about it. How about this coaching matchup? Just the comparison between Tom Allen and Lane Kiffin. You want to talk about some polar opposites?
Well, I'm not going to get into the personality of Lane Kiffin. All I can tell you, you're right about the polar opposites. There's no doubt about it.
Don, while you're on here, I wanted to ask you a little bit about the about Indiana basketball over the weekend, getting a big win over at the Crossroads. How big of a victory was that for Indiana as they were able to come from behind and kind of run away with that game a little bit in the second half?
Well, it wasn't a good first half, to say the least, in the sense that Indiana allowed Butler to kind of push them around a little bit. I said at halftime, going into our halftime break, that Indiana had been out-toughed in this ball game at that point. And there was no doubt that the bigs inside, Trace and Race, both were struggling down low to contain the bigs for Butler just because they were so physical. And that was one of the big reasons why Indiana was behind at halftime by 5 points, along with some outside shooting from Butler. But honestly, the second half, it was just a complete clinic on defense. I mean, you talk about a team that turned it around completely and basically got back into the mode that they're capable of playing with a physicality to it, along with the fact that they knocked down some shots and continued to do the job inside with Trace and with Race. But Armand Franklin, of course, kept him in the game in the first half with his outside shooting. But there were other guys that stepped up in this game from the outside as well. So I'm really excited about what I see in this basketball team. There's no question their staple is defense. There's no doubt about that. But they're starting to develop an offense that's capable of hitting some outside jump shots, Armand being the primary guy right now. I still think there are a couple other guys in this team, Al and Rob, who are capable of knocking down shots at a pretty consistent rate, but they've got to start doing it. And if they get this whole thing going from an offensive standpoint with the outside-inside game, they're going to be really tough to beat. And honestly, at this juncture, I think that they're capable of doing that. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out. But they're about to go into what I would consider the toughest portion of their schedule by any stretch of the imagination, and they've already had a pretty tough schedule at this point. They're about to go into a meat grinder of a conference because last year, as everyone knows, everybody said, basically any game that you go into, there's a good chance you could get beat if you don't play your best. And I think it's doubled down on that this year because I don't think there's a team in this league that can't beat you on any given night. And Northwestern proved it yesterday or last evening with the game against Michigan State. They knock off the number 4 team in the country, and it wasn't close. A 14 victory for the Wildcats, and they dominated Michigan State throughout most of that contest. Honestly, if you go into a game thinking you're just going to be able to walk in there and win, you're in for another thing coming, as my grandma used to say.
It's funny. That's exactly what I was thinking, Don. I was like, Indiana gets to start off the Big Ten. At least they don't have to start at the top. And then Northwestern turns around and knocks Michigan State off. I'm like, oh my gosh, it doesn't matter. There are no nights off in the Big Ten, and it doesn't matter who you're playing. You're exactly right. And it is. Last year it was tough. I think it's even tougher this year. And Northwestern, like you said, just proved that there are no nights off. It doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter how good you are. You have a shot to lose every night in this league.
Well, look at what Rutgers did yesterday at Illinois. I mean, this is a tough league. There's just no question about it. And every single game is going to be a dogfight unless you go in there and just think that, or you're not ready to play, or you go in there and think it's not going to be a physical game, or whatever the case may be. It's going to be physical. It's going to be a mental game. Really, a very important mental side of it's going to be critical, I think, in every game that you play. And it's going to be a grind, and it's going to be tough on everybody in this league. And like they did last year, they're going to beat each other up. You could see a Big Ten champion this year with 6-7 losses on its schedule.
Not only that, at no point will you have fan support this year. It doesn't matter if you're at home or on the road. There's no support. So you've got to go through this entire meat grinder of a schedule and bring your own juice every night. That's hard in and of itself.
Well, that's why I say it's going to be a mental game as much as it is a physical game, because the energy is going to be provided by yourself. There's nobody else that will be able to do that for you. Crowds are not going to be allowed again during Big Ten play this year, other than some family members and that kind of thing. It's like I said, it's just going to be different. But it's going to require you to be mentally ready to play every single basketball game. And, of course, I don't think there's any question that the team that wins it will be the most mentally tough team, not just physically, but mentally tough team that plays the best basketball.
Don, another busy week for you. You got some coaches shows coming up, a short week with the holidays. You got the basketball game as well, Northwestern, and you got to open up Big Ten play. So busy week for you coming up.
Well, you know what? I don't mind that at all. We're still in the football realm of things with the bowl game coming this way, and I think it's really exciting for Indiana athletics. I think the program is in great shape. I think Scott Dolson is a terrific AD. I'm really excited about what I see with football and basketball right now in Indiana, and there are obviously other sports too, but they're not getting to play any at this juncture, so that's the sad part. And the worst part of this whole thing is that our fans are not able to be a part of this in person like they have in the past. And I still feel so bad for the Indiana football fans that have been so loyal to this program, the 20,000 or 22 or 23,000 fans that come to every single ball game, buoyed by the student body and that type of thing. And when you look at it, for those people that have been loyal to this program and been through all the tough times and the struggles and the bad football at times and all those things, and those people have not been able to enjoy a football season and ended up sending Indiana to the Outback Bowl with a 6-1 record. That to me is the saddest part of this whole year.
Absolutely. I could not agree with you more. Don, I cannot thank you enough, man. We appreciate you always. Look forward to hearing you on the broadcast coming up.
Well, appreciate it much. Inside IU Basketball with Archie Miller tonight at 7:05. Don't forget that.
Absolutely. Busy week for Don Fisher, the legend. Thank you, sir. We appreciate you.
Merry Christmas, everybody.
Merry Christmas to Don Fisher and the entire family. Thank you, sir. The legend joining us here on Indiana Sports Beat, as he does each and every week, Dylan. And man, he's been a busy year for him. The way that they've crammed everything in with the schedule changes, really been busy for him. Starting to loosen up a little bit as football has backed off, but basketball is here. So and then he's got the coaches shows, man. Don's a busy guy. And then he does a lot of other stuff for the university that they have him do. So, man, he is always busy. But, yeah, it's tough for him. He's got to ride the line, too, as far as talking about this football thing. And yeah, but you hit it. It put Scott Dolson in a little bit of a not a pickle, but it may be actually. Scott has probably wanted to say something, but because he is new, you have to toe the line. And trust me, I know that. But I also know that he'd probably like to talk. There's times where people like to talk and can't. Maybe this is a time where this prompts you that it enables you to be able to do that.
Right, and that's exactly. And Scott, I'm sure there's plenty that Scott wants to say. People want to hear from him. He is the leader of the athletic program, and he's someone that probably has kind of knowledge of what went on behind the scenes a little bit here. But yeah, people want to hear from him, and maybe we'll hear him say something. But obviously, he can't completely go off, because there's a little bit of politics that have to go into this too, to make sure that you toe the line with the Big Ten, as you said.
Yep. Absolutely. Hey, we got more coming up. Of course, Matt Taylor from the Colts is going to join us. They had a big win yesterday. Plenty to talk about. We got more basketball and football to talk about. We'll get to all that. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. We're back with more right after this. No coffee this morning. I left my coffee sitting in there. Got to get my coffee, man.
Five at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra. And with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together. And Lee Royce Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Lee Royce Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke every Friday and Saturday night. Lee Royce Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Little Pearl Jam coming back here. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat. Coming back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dylan Sin with you. Jim Coyle here as always. Just finished up with Don Fisher. Looking forward to having Matt Taylor on here in the next segment. Colts, big win yesterday. Man, it's a big win for them, Dylan.
Yeah. I mean, that's a huge win. To win the way they did against a divisional opponent. I mean, they're rolling here late in the season. We talked all year about that kind of the meat grinder in the middle of the schedule. They survived that, and they just have come out on the other side playing like with a ton of confidence, and that's great to see here. Obviously, you want to be finishing the season strong going into the playoffs, and they're absolutely doing that this year.
Absolutely. We'll talk to Matt Taylor in the next segment about that as well as I think they have the Steelers coming up next. Whew. Yeah, get up with that. But how about Indiana? Man, I'm glad. I'll be honest with you. From a selfish standpoint, I didn't want them going to the Fiesta Bowl. I was hoping for the Citrus Bowl for travel purposes, but they should have been in the – here's the thing. How in the world – I don't want to sit down. I don't want that Gary Boughton soda to sit in front of me and tell me how you can put a 3-loss team, how you can allow your conference to get screwed over by a 3-loss team, a team that lost to Louisiana Lafayette. There's no way anybody, none, can put a 3-loss team in front of a team that lost once to a team that they're insisting is one of the best in the country by a single score. By a turnover that they gave to them. That game was razor thin close. They use it to prop Ohio State up, but it's mind-boggling. We know that they're lying. We all know that they're sitting there lying and just spraying this load, but no one is confronting them about it. And I'm like, okay, so nothing's going to change. Nothing changes if you allow the status quo to continue. There's outrage, but what's going to be done about it?
And that's the question, right? Is there going to be any change from this? And I mean, it's tough for Indiana because obviously maybe it's a situation where Gary Barta is the chairman, so he feels like they have to avoid even the appearance of Big Ten bias, and that ends up pushing.
Well, he certainly helped out with the SEC bias
further down, exactly. So, and it's tough because obviously the Iowa State situation is the most difficult for me to fathom because they've been up on Iowa State most of the year. Iowa State was 6th going into the Big 12 championship game, and they have a lot of the same disadvantages as Indiana does. They're a program that is not historically successful. If you're talking about like, oh, they just follow the money, well, Iowa State doesn't bring in a whole lot of money either. So it's difficult for me to see why they were so high in Iowa State all year long. They talked about them beating Oklahoma and beating Texas. I don't see why a win over Texas this season is such a big deal in a year where a lot of
it's a name game. It's all about the name game.
It is apparently, yeah.
It's all about the name.
And so yeah. So putting an 8-3 team ahead of a 6-1 Indiana team, they said it was about the wins that the Iowa State had, that Indiana did not have. Although if you're talking about wins and you're talking about names, Indiana beat Michigan and they beat Penn State. So even if those teams are down, so is Texas. So I don't understand. I'm not saying anything that anyone hasn't already said, but it's just difficult to understand where that's coming from. And then the complete other point here that you touched on and we didn't even really get to is the Citrus Bowl choosing Northwestern over Indiana, which to me is completely unfathomable. After we saw that Big Ten championship game where Northwestern just dragged Ohio State down and made them play the ugliest game imaginable, and that's the type of game that the Citrus Bowl decided over wanting an exciting game with Indiana. To me, I just don't understand that.
Well, I'm looking at Dabo Sweeney's USA Today coaching ballot right now. He's got Alabama 1. He's got Clemson 2. He's got Notre Dame 3. Towing the company line there with the ACC. He's got who do you think he has 4th?
Oh, that's a great question. He doesn't have Ohio State 4th probably because I know a lot of coaches don't think that he
has 3 consecutive SEC teams after.
Does he really? Wow.
A&M, Florida, Georgia, then Cincinnati, then 2-loss Oklahoma. Then 3-loss Iowa State at number 9. This is absolute BS. Then he's got Coastal Carolina. Then he has Ohio State at number 11. Then he's got North Carolina. Then he's got Brigham Young, who lost to Coastal Carolina in front of Indiana, who lost to Ohio State. So there's complete Big Ten bias against the Big Ten. And that's from Dabo Sweeney. So that's why if you think these polls there's not some mind games being played in those polls, you're wrong. They are. And as you can see with Dabo Sweeney's ballot right there.
Quite frankly, I would, if I was Ryan Day, I'd be putting that on a bulletin board all over the place going into the college football playoff here. Having Ohio State down at number 11 is that's a whole lot of disrespect coming from Dabo.
I don't think he has to, because this is on Twitter. Dave Rebson from the Big Ten Network has posted it on Twitter, so it's going to be out there all over the place for sure. But yeah, you're right. I mean, that is, and I love it, because that's the only game that I think is going to be a game, is the Clemson-Ohio State game. I don't know who wins that game, but Alabama is going to kick the crap out of Notre Dame, because Notre Dame, and we're going to talk about this. Dylan covers Notre Dame. Notre Dame is the most overrated, overranked, overworked. It's the biggest bunch of crap. That is next to Indiana getting screwed. Notre Dame being in the Final Four is the biggest joke I have seen in so long. They are not they're barely a top 10 team. I wouldn't think that they could beat a team in the top 10 currently. There's not a single team in the top 10 I would take again that I would pick to lose to get to Notre Dame. What does Notre Dame do that is done? I don't understand. What is anybody seeing this team? What the hell have they done?
That's where we have to part company, Jim. As someone who's covered them all year, I'm here to tell your listeners, Notre Dame is a very, very good team. Don't get that confused. And they won all 10 games. That's part of it, right? They did beat
Clemson.
Play in
the ACC. Don't forget. How can you lose?
It was Sans Trevor Lawrence. They did beat Clemson. So that's probably the best win in all of college football this year, even though it was without Trevor Lawrence. They won that game. And I mean, this is a team that has one of maybe the best offensive line in the country. They have an extremely talented defense. And the problem with having them in the top 4, and I went back.
How many points did they give up to Clemson with Trevor Lawrence, that defense?
Well, they had 34, which, I mean, that's pretty low for a Clemson team.
And how many points did that offensive line provide for that offense against Clemson?
Yeah, and yeah, they lost big to Clemson in the ACC championship game. So obviously the thing is, well, they already lost to Clemson, so what's the point? But the problem is the only other team that really had a shot was Texas A&M, which had the same issue with Alabama, right? They lost.
They had a shot. Had a shot to get in, or had a shot to win?
Had a shot to get in, because it was clear the committee was choosing between Notre Dame and Texas A&M for that 4th spot. And so
that's what I don't get. Yeah. Notre Dame I'm sorry, we just saw them get waxed because they are exactly what I think they are. They are an ACC team, which is nothing. The ACC is so weak, and they're what they've done this year has been propped up against weakness. You've got a bloated North Carolina team that was ranked 5 at one time. Are you kidding me? That's the worst 5th-ranked team in the history of college football. No way. The ACC is a joke, and the only reason COVID is the only thing that helped them this year, because other teams weren't playing, and so they were able to climb the rankings quicker. And it was all optics, because it's all smoke and mirrors. And Notre Dame got smoked. And that's exactly what will happen again. So I don't understand, what is the draw for anybody to see a team that we know cannot compete at that level? Cannot compete. They will be beaten by probably 3 scores. Why do we want to see that again? I don't. I'd rather see Coastal Carolina. I'd rather see Cincinnati. I'd rather see anybody than Notre Dame in this Final Four, because we know what the outcome is. They don't deserve to be there, and I don't understand the point.
Well, and that's the thing with the committee is you could absolutely make a case for Cincinnati or Coastal Carolina being in, because they won all their games. They did what they were asked to do, but the committee was never considering those teams for that 4th spot. They made that clear when they had Cincinnati down at 9th last week behind teams that had 2 and 3 losses. So, and so basically what the committee decided last week was this 4th spot, if Notre Dame lost to Clemson, which they ended up doing, that 4th spot was going to come down to Notre Dame and Texas A&M. They never considered Cincinnati or Coastal Carolina. And that's a whole other discussion. And I feel like that's something that needs to be discussed, because there is right now no path for a group of 5 team to make the college football playoff. There just isn't. There's nothing they can do short of scheduling 4 ranked teams in the non-conference schedule, but none of those teams ever want to play these good group of 5 teams, because then there's a chance that they lose a non-conference game and they get kicked out of the playoff. So there's no path for them, and that needs to change. Something needs to change in that level as well.
Yeah, because when they do that, Central Florida was a program that could have elevated and continue to elevate had that path been available. Had they not been treated like the second class citizen they were, and I loved it so much when they went to that bowl game and beat Auburn. That was just awesome. But they don't get those chances. But not only do they not get the chances, if the Indianas of the world don't get those chances from the Big Ten, how the heck are they going to get them? I mean, Indiana is in the one of the most powerful conferences in all of sports. Yet they're being held down by their own conference. So, which is worse? Which is harder? You're fighting from within there. But yeah, you're right, and that's the thing that we've seen from all these coaches, whether it's Luke Fickell, whoever it is, they just want a path. They want an opportunity. Now, at the same time, Cincinnati and Coastal Carolina, I'm sorry. They don't deserve to be there. They're not good enough to be there. Yes, they won their games, but they haven't played anybody. If you want to play with the big boys, then you have to play the big boys, is my opinion. And Cincinnati would get their butt kicked. Coastal Carolina would get beat so bad it wouldn't even be funny. If you put them in a game with these top 3 teams, oh my God, that would be disgustingly ugly. I think if they played any other team in the top, like Indiana, Ohio, Oklahoma, Iowa State, that wouldn't be pretty. I think that's a 3-score win for whoever that team is. I don't even know how bad it would be for Clemson or an Alabama. It's not the same. They're not even. That's not the same sport. I'm sorry. They're the bottom of Division I cannot compete at the top of Division I. It's a different sport almost, I think.
Yeah, and I mean we're going to get to find out, right? Because Coastal Carolina is playing Liberty, so that's not really, we're not going to find out a whole lot from that. But what we are going to find out a lot from is Cincinnati playing Georgia.
That's the game, man. That's the awesome game. That's the Central Florida Auburn game all over again.
It is the Central Florida Auburn game, and quite frankly, I don't know how good Georgia is. They're only 2 big games this year. They got crushed by Florida and they got crushed by Alabama. So how good is Georgia? We have no idea really. But yeah, and quite frankly, I think there's a chance. You talked about like how the lower tier teams are playing a different game from the top teams. I think we find out in the playoff that Clemson and Alabama are playing a different game from everybody. I think Alabama beats Notre Dame handily, and I think Clemson beats Ohio State handily, and then they go out and play a whale of a championship game.
I'm interested to see what happens in that Clemson Ohio State game. I don't know. I don't know how that's. I'm like, man, they looked really good. Ohio State's defense is fast. That's the thing. Those guys are so fast. I don't know that they played. I don't know that they played a defense that fast. So it's gonna be interesting. It's gonna be I'm looking forward to that one. I think Alabama's just gonna destroy Notre Dame. That's the most worthless. I don't even know if I'll even watch that game. I'll just check in on see what the first score is. But looking forward to it. But yeah, but you're right.
Yeah, Cincinnati, Georgia at noon, Notre Dame at 4, and then Ohio State at 8. That's a whale of a day.
And Indiana, they got screwed several ways. Their opponent, Ole Miss, not a marquee opponent. I mean, it's an SEC, and it's Lane Kiffin, which is cool, but I don't understand. I don't understand. How does the 7th ranked team in the country end up playing a team with a losing record? It makes zero sense to me. Yeah. I mean, we all know what's going on, but what I don't understand is how this is so ridiculous. How do they do that and say, this looks good, this will work? How do they do that and not expect this horrific? I mean, there's complaints is one thing, but this is a backlash that I think is going to lead to some kind of change. I hope. Yeah. I don't know that. It takes a lot to change these guys, but I think it may have gotten so bad and under Gary Barta's leadership that it may have gotten so apparent that this is such a bought and sold organization that maybe change comes.
And it's tough for Indiana. They've kind of been put in a no-win situation with the Outback Bowl because it's great that they're in the Outback Bowl but they're playing Ole Miss, and Ole Miss has played some very good games this year. They were within 2 touchdowns of Alabama. They almost beat LSU this last week. They were within 2 touchdowns of Florida in the first week of the season. But they're 4-5. So if Indiana goes down to that bowl game and loses to Ole Miss, which let's be clear is a possibility here
because that's a prolific offense.
That is an extremely talented team. If they go down there and lose that game, everyone's just going to say, "Oh well, Indiana was a fraud all year. We all knew it," and they're going to get no respect going into next year either. And if they win that game, everyone's just going to say, "Oh well, it was a 4-5 Ole Miss team. Who cares?" Right?
Well, we've already seen them do that. We already seen it, like you talked about. They use it to boast Ohio State up, and then they it's opposite for Indiana. So we got to take a break, but we got plenty more coming up. Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts, is going to join us next. Talk about their big winners. They're heading to trying to make the playoffs. We'll be back with more from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios right after this. Yeah. Good stuff.
That's fun.
It is. It's good stuff.
We do need to talk about the Colts a little bit.
In Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway, Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs, Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services.
Just when I thought we
Switching
were
to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Today's guest is brought to you by Reynolds Family Dentistry of Sellersburg. You need $1 million smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you'll get with Reynolds Family Dentistry. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat here on this Monday. A little Monday morning quarterback action. Dylan Sin joining us as always from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette. And now Matt Taylor, the voice of the Colts. How are you, sir?
What's going on, Jim and Dylan? You guys got your Christmas shopping done or what? You guys ready to go?
Yeah. I'm as close as I'm going to get, I think.
I'm all right.
Man, you got your Christmas present early. The youngster, how's that? How's the baby doing?
He's doing good. I think we have officially a crawler. I think we're on the move here. So that's new as of this week. So we got to be even more alert, even more on our toes with the youngster. So
you giving the Heisman polls yet?
Close.
That's right.
Close. The four.
Give that Heisman pose, man. That's when it's on.
He's running like a 5 foot or 5'2" 40, right? He's got to get that speed up. So it's good. It's good.
Well, man, the Colts certainly look like they've got it going on right now as they pull off a big win over the weekend and continue to try to get into the playoffs.
Yeah, 10-4, and not that 10 wins is necessarily a benchmark, but you feel pretty good in terms of where they're at right now. 2 games left. They got to go on the road at Pittsburgh in Week 16, wrap it up Week 17 at home against Jacksonville. So maybe worst case scenario, you split those 2 games. You're at 11 wins. So with 7 teams getting into the playoffs this year, hopefully 11 wins is good enough to do it. But I say that because there's just so much parity. There's so many good teams inside the AFC. It's weird that with only 2 games left and the Colts, with 10 wins, they haven't clinched anything yet. That proves that there's just so many good teams around them vying for playoff spots this year, and sort of an unprecedented year in the conference with so many good squads. But that being said, you just got to keep winning, take care of your business, and then everything will kind of fall into place. And they can still win the division. They're still in line, tied for first place with Tennessee in the AFC South, although Tennessee continues to have the better division record on the Colts. So this is a really big week,
though, isn't it?
Yeah, the head-to-head matchups are the first tiebreaker, and since they split, division record now is the tiebreaker in place between the 2 teams. But this is a really big week because the Colts have to go on the road at Pittsburgh, and we all know how tough of a place that is to play for the Colts. I mean, they've only won 2 times all time in the city of Pittsburgh. They're 2-15 against the Steelers on the road. But I tell you what, Tennessee has to go on the road. They have to play their toughest game of the season that they have left. They have to go to Lambeau and play the Packers. So both teams are on the road against teams that are well over 500, that seem to be in the playoff field in their respective conferences. So this weekend's going to go a long way in deciding which team wins the AFC South.
And then I don't know who's the Tex or the Titans in the season with, because it's going to come out if both teams, let's say both teams lost next week. Not that I'm thinking the Colts are going to lose, but they both have tough road games. Let's say they both lose, it's a wash. It's going to come down to that last game as far for the Colts to win the division. They play the Jaguars. I don't know who the Titans play, but
the Titans have to play the Texans.
There you go. So
yeah,
it looks like it's going to come down to the last week.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the way Tennessee's playing right now, they're just such a old school, run the ball down your throat type of team. I mean, the formula, as I've said, the formula to beat them is not hard to figure out. It's just hard to execute it because they're that good at what they do, with the play action pass being set up off the run with Derrick Henry. Their defense is adequate. They have big plays down the field to guys like Corey Davis and A.J. Brown. So, yeah, like I said, it's easier said than done to knock them off. But once they start playing with a lead and once they can afford to give Derrick Henry 20, 25 carries per game, and once he starts heating up around, 120, 150 yards on the ground, it is sayonara Sally. So they are a really fun team to watch because they're just really good at what they do. And the Colts knew what they had to do, 3 weeks ago, the Sunday after Thanksgiving, and they didn't do any of those things. A.J. Brown had a 70-yard catch. Derrick Henry almost ran for 200 yards. Ryan Tannehill was his efficient self. So it was an important game. The Colts lost it, and now they're trying to hopefully get some help with Tennessee stubbing their toe at Lambeau Field and get some help from the Packers.
Phillip Rivers continues to make Phillip Rivers haters not very happy because he continues to help the Colts win. And man, old man Rivers is just going on. And that quick release of his, they can't get to him.
Why do you think there's so many Phillip Rivers haters out there? What do you mean? What do you mean by Phillip Rivers haters? Are there people that just don't jive with his style of play and the production?
Oh, I think that they still are trying to get over him. Well, I think it's a combination. It's almost like the Bob Knight thing. They're still going to, the Andrew Luck thing is half of it. And then it's just, the people that didn't agree with it that came in, but I don't know at this point in the season what they can complain about. I mean, they're looking at a potential playoff spot, and he's done nothing but help them win. But there's haters going to hate.
Well, I think obviously, you play 16 years at one spot and then you have a couple of games where you come in and, I remember back in 2009, he comes in and beats the Colts at the RCA Dome. Or I think it was 2008. It was the Colts were undefeated late in the season, and the Chargers come in, they knock off the Colts, and obviously fans didn't like that to kind of ruin the perfect season. And then he came in a couple of times in the playoffs, out there here at Lucas Oil Stadium, got the job done. So there's that bad stigma of a guy that kind of ruins your outlook in January football. But I mean, since he's been here, I mean, really the last 8 or 9 games, 18 touchdowns, only 4 picks in that span. He joined Aaron Rodgers and Russell Wilson as the only quarterbacks this season with a rating of at least 118 in 3 consecutive games. He's not turning the football over. He's playing kind of hurt, banged up a little bit with that turf toe that continues to nag him. He's getting everybody involved. Again, yesterday, 8 different guys caught a pass. Zach Pascal. And that's the fun thing about this team is that, Zach Pascal had been relatively quiet. And I say that in terms of, he's kind of in line with a lot of role players on this team where he shows up, does his job, but based on the matchups, you don't know who's going to break out on a given Sunday. And yesterday it happened to be Zach Pascal's turn where he had 5 catches over 70 yards and 2 touchdowns. And leading into the game, he had 1 catch in each of the last 3 games. So you have to wait your turn. You have to be ready. You have to do your job, and you have to prepare like every Sunday is going to be your breakout game. And the Colts have a lot of guys that do that. The last 3 games, it was T.Y. Hilton. It was Jonathan Taylor running the ball. JT had another solid game yesterday, over 80 rushing yards, found the end zone again. But there's just so many weapons on this offense, and Phillip Rivers does such a good job of just taking what the defense gives him, but then also exploiting the matchups and then orchestrating the offense to get those favorable matchups. It's one thing to take advantage of them, but how can you create them schematically? And that's what Frank Reich and Nick Sirianni and Phillip Rivers, who by all accounts is an extension of the coaching staff on the field with all his wisdom and football savvy that he's racked up over 17 years. They have that on the field. And, I go back to the late drive in the game. The Colts and Texans are tied at 20. Colts get the ball back with just a little bit over 7 minutes. They go on this 12-play drive. They have to convert 4th and 1, but then it's 2nd down and 20 because of an offensive pass interference call on the Colts. And they line up T.Y. Hilton in a stacked bunch as the number 3 wide receiver, and they get that favorable matchup that I'm talking about. They get him lined up on Tyrell Adams, who's a linebacker. So T.Y. Hilton on any linebacker is definitely a win for the Colts, and they get him right down the middle of the seam. Phillip Rivers puts it right on the money, a 41-yard gain down to the 3-yard line. 2 plays later, the Colts score. They go up by 7, ultimately win the game. I mean, that's what I'm talking about, just by the intelligence of Phillip Rivers to put the Colts in the right spot and put them in the right play when the game's on the line.
Matt, we'd be remiss if we didn't ask you about the fumble with 19 seconds left, one of the most exciting ways to end an NFL game all season. What was that like for you to call that, and what was that play like?
Well, it was 4th down, so obviously it was, the game's on the line. The Texans at that point are out of timeouts. They're down by 7, and we're thinking in the back of our minds, with where the Texans are at in their season, if they score a touchdown, they're probably going to go for 2 and, spoil the party for the Colts. So they get a 1st down. The completion is good up the field to Kiki Cutie inside the 5-yard line, and it looks like he's going to go in. He's at the 2-yard line, and just deja vu all over again, where the Texans fumble on their own 2-yard line against the Colts with under 2 minutes to go for the second time in 3 weeks, and the Colts come away with a fumble recovery. Just absolute wild. I don't think, Frank Reich talked about it after the game. Phillip Rivers talked about it after the game. Those guys have been around football for a long time, and neither of them have seen anything like that where, easily, the Texans easily could have swept the Colts. They were 4 yards away combined in 2 games from sweeping the Colts. So when they say it's, a game of inches and it comes down to the little things, man, it really does. Just ask the Colts because, again, they could easily be, instead of 10-4, they could be 8-6 here. So it was a wild call. Tried to stay on my P's and Q's during the call as it, kind of squirted into the end zone. And then there was just a sea of humanity trying to get the ball. And you had to wait to see who had it. And then if the Colts had it, it was going to be a touchback. If the Texans had it, it was going to be a touchdown. So wild call, wild finish, and the Colts are really fortunate to come out of that game with a win. And that's just how much respect you have to have for Deshaun Watson. Not going off on a tangent, but Deshaun Watson playing with a depleted kind of cast of characters around him. I mentioned Kiki Cutie. They had a guy named Chad Hansen, David Johnson playing banged up a little bit. They were down there, two of their top three running backs. They had a third string tight end catch 3 passes yesterday. Deshaun Watson is just so good. He's able to elevate all of those guys around him to his level. And in 2 games against the Colts in a span of 3 weeks, he passes for 714 yards and accounts for over 800 yards when you factor in his rushing. And I know the Texans are not a very good team, and they're going to have a new head coach and a new GM next year. They don't have a lot of draft picks because they've mortgaged a lot of those picks for guys that either, are banged up or haven't panned out or what have you. But I tell you what, Deshaun Watson's going to be a Texan for the next 10 years, and that scares the heck out of Colts fans because this guy is so good and is, again, almost single-handedly able to kind of will the Texans to 2 victories.
Yeah, and he's a guy that I see that just is going to get better because he's been a really good quarterback since he came into the league, just through athletic ability and
he'd be an MVP candidate. He'd be an MVP candidate if he was on a different team because he's top 5 in every passing category, and I think he's one of the best quarterbacks in the game. But obviously, a lot of people this year aren't paying attention to him because he's on a bad team.
Absolutely, man. I cannot thank you enough, Matt. Wish we had more time. We're running short here today because I wanted to talk about Indiana and the college football stuff, man. But we'll have to do that next time. They got hosed.
Yeah, absolutely hosed. This is real quick. This is, being an IU football fan, you're sort of ignorant to the corruption of college football up until this year, which is a good thing, I guess, now that we're privy to it. And that means IU is on the level of potentially getting hosed, which they did. And so it's great that they're getting a bowl game, but I would love for them to go make a statement and kind of stick it to the college football playoff system by running Ole Miss off the field for sure.
Absolutely. And the corruption within the Big Ten itself. Crazy. But thank you so much, brother. We appreciate it. Look forward to it next week and look forward to talking about hopefully a Colts win over the Steelers.
You got it, guys. Be good. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. The great Matt Taylor joining us here, the voice of the Indianapolis Colts. We got a lot more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, and back with it right after this. Man, now it's the Dylan Sinn Show. Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh.
I didn't even want to go.
You're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area, or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50 TVs.
I don't know how much
Bubba's 33 in Clarksville. Pizza, burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Drs. Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family.
I'd rather watch it at home. To be honest with you,
809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246.
The playoff.
Huh?
If I'm going to travel, I have to decide whether I'm going to go to the Outback Bowl or the playoff.
Go to the playoff, man. Because they won't be in the second game.
So that's the thing is, like, I'm going to spend and like obviously there's always a chance that like they pull some kind of shocker, but the most likely outcome is I'm going to spend 2 weeks trying to make it sound interesting, and then they're going to lose by 4 touchdowns. It's like, okay,
let's hope not. Hey, I think we're back here. Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dylan Simpson.
The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your
Couldn't
next
tell.
outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new
It just scares me, though. I was like,
it's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
This is former Indiana basketball player Brian Evans, and you're listening to Indiana Sports Beat with Jim Coyle.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here on this Monday from the golf course at the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios. Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette sitting in as he always does. We spoke with the voice of the Hoosiers, Don Fisher, earlier, and just got off with Matt Taylor from the Colts. Lots of exciting things going on this past weekend. Not all of it fun, Dylan, but now we got to look forward. The worst decision you got to make in life is where you're going to the Outback Bowl or the college playoff. So that's good. That's a good problem to have.
It is a good problem to have. Either way, I'm going to be somewhere warm on New Year's. That is extremely well. Hopefully, whether I decide to travel for the playoff, my company is still making that decision. But hopefully, be somewhere warm for New Year's.
Could have been in sunny California had Brian Kelly not thrown such a complaint about it playing the Rose Bowl. But now they're going to be in Dallas, Texas, down at Jerry World.
Excuse me, it's the college football playoff semifinal at AT&T Stadium. They are not allowed to call it the Rose Bowl. They lost the brand.
I know that. Yeah, absolutely not. The college football invitational, as I call it. But yeah, that'd be cool to see that. But as we move forward now, we got basketball in full play. Indiana, the ranking's going to be coming out. People wondering. I don't see Indiana ranked this week. Rick Bozes had his poll out. I saw he had them like 22nd, and I saw a couple others that have popped out. They're not in that top 25. I don't see it. I'll be honest with you. I do not see Indiana basketball being ranked, period, this season, because they have a small window, I think. And if you get in, because once you get into Big Ten play, it is going to be such a ping pong up and down, back and forth, that I don't think there's going to be much movement once you get into conference play, and you're going to kind of be where you are, because it's going to be. I think Indiana's going to go. I'll be honest with you. I see them going 9-11 in Big Ten play. It's just such a. We talked about how tough a league this is. It's the toughest ever. This may be the toughest conference, period, ever. I mean, I cannot think in my time. I can't think of a conference that has this many teams that's this deep. It's crazy.
I mean, quite frankly, like 9-11 is maybe not that far off from what Indiana might need to go to the NCAA tournament. If they go 9-11 and finish the year 14-13 overall, that might be enough. Depending on who they beat, that might be enough to go to the NCAA tournament, because there are just so many games in the Big Ten that basically, if you get 9 wins, those are 9 wins over quality opponents, one way or another.
You're going to have to beat somebody along the way.
Right.
Like you're saying.
And exactly. So, and we talked about it earlier with Michigan State Northwestern when Don was on. That game was just kind of a microcosm of what this Big Ten season is going to be. That is the conference favorite playing against the team that was picked to finish 14th. And the team that was picked to finish last in the league went up there and won by 15 points. That game was not as close as the final score. Northwestern was the better team the entire game. That is just a shocking. Yes.
So week after Michigan State goes on the road and beats Duke.
Exactly. So now two Big Ten teams have beaten Duke and gone on to lose to lower ranked Big Ten teams once the conference season started. This league is absolutely loaded, and it is going to be so much fun this season. Now it's going to be extremely nerve-wracking, and every single game is going to be like pulling teeth if you're an Indiana fan. But it's going to be like, if you're a Big Ten fan in general, this season is just going to be a blast from start to finish. Every single slate of games is going to be fun.
Oh, absolutely. And just, it's going to be curious to see how many Big Tens actually end up making it out of this meat grinder because of that, because everybody's fighting. Everyone's fighting for their piece of the pie. You got new blood, Rutgers, teams like that that's fighting for their piece of the blood. They got to have it. And you got Indiana who's trying to stay there. This is going to be a good old-fashioned battle in this Big Ten this year. And I mentioned it when Don was on, not having the fans for any game, it changes the entire dynamic of it, because every game you got to play you're used to going to half your games and having people just be against you. So, that's half of it right there. But now when you're at home, you're used to that support and it's not there. So not having that support on the road is something you're accustomed to, and you have to battle through. Now you got to battle through that at home, man. And it just takes a little momentum by your opposing team on your own home court, and you could feel like you're on the road all of a sudden.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point. Veteran leadership is going to be more important this year in the Big Ten than ever, because veteran leadership is what's going to help you have that energy when there's no fans. You're going to have to go out there. We've seen it at Assembly Hall. The gym is almost silent. It feels like you're playing a scrimmage or an AAU game, and the gym is basically silent. And so you're out there. The only things you're hearing are communication on defense and sneakers squeaking. And so you need to bring your own energy. And it's going to be the teams that are able to do that on the most consistent basis that are the most successful. Like, I cover Purdue. I'm used to covering Purdue games where Mackey Arena just explodes on every single basket that the Boilermakers have in a big game. And then they played Ohio State, a ranked team, last week, and it was silent in there. And they still were able to win that game because they have veteran leadership on that team that was able to tell them, hey, we don't have the energy of the crowd behind us. We got to go out and bring our own. And they were able to do that. And they defended well for 40 minutes. And that's something that Indiana needs to do this season. And we've seen it a few times so far, but they need to do it on a consistent basis.
Yeah, you look at the game this past weekend with Butler. If that game is played at Butler's, let's say, I don't know, Indiana can do what they did in that second half, because they were able to go in that locker room, come back out with the changes, and not have to worry about a crowd. They didn't have to worry about that battle, so they were able to focus and get that done. So you can see that it does allow you to change your fortunes. So it's going to come with good and bad. It's going to give you opportunity, and it's going to make things difficult on you. So it's going to be a great challenge this season. I mean, it brings so many different challenges.
Yes. Yeah, I think that, that's really important is it's going to be different. And so that which team is able to adjust to something that's different are going to be the teams that are going to be successful. Part of that is going to come down to coaching. Archie is going to have to do a terrific job of kind of preparing these guys for something that is different from everything they've known in competitive basketball up to this point. And so, again, they've done a pretty good job of it this year. That you talked about the halftime adjustments they made against Butler. That part of that is coaching. They went in at halftime and said, "Look, we're being outmuscled right now. You're soft in the paint at this point. Go out there and change that." And they went out there and changed it. I think that part of the credit for that needs to go to coaching, and also part of the credit needs to go to veteran leadership, and specifically Race Thompson for basically just saying, "I was bad in the first half. I'm better now," and going out and playing better. And that was a lot of fun to see.
That's a great point, Dylan. The coaching aspect of it is going to play, I think, more of a role this year than ever, because of the bring your own juice thing. And people, I hear a lot of people say, well, it's not coaches' responsibility to get their teams up. Bull. It is. It's a responsibility for everything. They're responsible for every aspect of their team. And that includes getting them up, whether if they need that, whatever it takes. Yeah, it's their responsibility. So we'll see how it goes. I talked about Dabo Swinney's vote earlier. I just saw something on Twitter that it's got Nick Saban. He's got Indiana in his top 10. Alabama, Clemson, Notre Dame, Texas A&M. He's got Ohio State 5th. So he's a little more disingenuous. He's got Cincinnati 6th. He's got Oklahoma 7th, Florida 8, Georgia 9. But then he's got Indiana, so you got to give him a little credit there. And who was the other one I saw? Kirby Smart.
Kirby Smart's got Indiana 8th or 9th.
Okay.
Right behind Cincinnati, in front of Oklahoma. 2 spots behind Georgia.
You got to wonder how many of these coaches, how many of games of these teams these coaches have actually watched. Because if you're a coach, you're seeing one game a week probably, right? Like,
well, you wonder how many times they actually vote in these things.
I don't know. I mean, do they actually? I mean, they usually have a GA or somebody that does this stuff. Fill that out.
Right.
Who knows? I mean, it doesn't matter. I don't think the college. Obviously, these polls don't mean jack in football when it comes to the College Football Invitational Committee. They don't care because nothing. It does not look the same, except for where they want it to look the same. So yeah, it used to matter. These polls used to matter. They used to be an integral part of how, and I thought that was a much better way. I mean, we all used to complain about that because it wasn't the best way. The best way to do it is play on the field. They just won't. They refuse to do this. They refuse to play this tournament on the field. They've fought it for 100 years. They still fight it. But to me, the media poll, it's the best of the worst because even if you've got a slight agenda because you cover a team, one vote does not do much for you. You're just too spread out. But man, everything else.
Yeah, the media poll is good because it's kind of a cross section of people across the country, and they do that specifically. They try to get people from every single geographic region and state to vote, so that they're trying to cut down on bias as much as they can. And I think that makes it probably the most fair. I don't know how accurate it is because writers just like coaches. Writers are maybe only seeing 1 or 2 games in a day because they're covering games. I know that's something that I struggle with when I'm putting together, because I'm a voter myself. When I'm putting together my poll, I have to go back and watch a lot of game highlights and see who did what because I was covering a game when other games were happening. So it's hard to watch a lot of them. But it seems like the most fair way to do it. And you're right. Maybe the answer is to expand the playoff and make it change, have the games happen on the field, and that would be better. But there seems to be a lot of inertia against that right now.
I don't get it. I mean, I think we've talked about this before that we got to take a break, but that 16-team playoff format that we saw somebody put out on Twitter, that was just a work of art. That was beautiful. I mean, I looked at those games. They were magical. I'm like, that's it. That is it. And everybody loves that, but they just refuse to do it. Just won't do it. We got to take a break. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat coming to you from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios. Back to finish this out right after this. Well, Kane Womack introduced somebody from his football staff, but it's not from
Bubba's 33 in Clarksville, located on the northeast corner of I-65 at Veterans Parkway. Bubba's 33 has hand-tossed pizzas, bold burgers, and ice-cold beer from a select list of local craft brewers. An incredible food selection, all made fresh daily. Whether you're meeting the team for that post-win meal in the family dining area or meeting friends for happy hour to watch the game on one of Bubba's 50
I don't
TV.
see a lot
Bubba's
about you
33
guys
in
leaving to go to
Clarksville.
South
Pizza,
Alabama.
burgers, beer.
We all want a winning smile for those championship photos, and that's exactly what you will get at Reynolds Family Dentistry in Sellersburg. Reynolds Family Dentistry has been serving the dental needs of Hoosier families for over 30 years. Let Doctors Roger and Jay Reynolds take care of your family. Just off of I-65 at 809 South Indiana Avenue in Sellersburg. Call 812-246-3368. That's Reynolds Family Dentistry, 812-246-3368.
Hey, this is Jim Coyle with Indiana Sports Beat Radio. We're now a part of the Rivals Network. TheHoosier.com is where you'll find complete coverage of the Indiana Hoosiers, as well as coverage of the Big Ten. Simply go to TheHoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also catch Indiana Sports Beat Radio there each day at your convenience, or you can find it any place you podcast or on this station each weekday. If we're not on the station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. The 2021 golf season is just around the corner. Book your next outing or get your membership from the Golf Club at Eagle Point in Bloomington. Just call 812-824-4040. And whether you're playing golf or not, you'll want to check out the new Psalms Clubhouse. It's open to the public for lunch or dinner, and the food is fantastic. Call 812-824-4040 for reservations or tee times. The Golf Club at Eagle Point and Psalms Clubhouse. A winner every time.
Does your bank offer the personal service of a community bank combined with big bank products that you expect? I'm Dane Chandler, Banking Center Manager with Banterra, and with our bank, you get the best of both worlds. Our easy-to-use mobile app includes conveniences like mobile check deposit. We offer competitive CD and money market rates, smart mortgage options, and unmatched business products and services. Switching to Banterra is easy. Stop by our locations to learn more. Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
The college and pro football seasons bring friends together, and Leroy's Tavern is a place to watch all the games every week with the NFL Sunday Ticket while enjoying $1 Busch Light drafts every Sunday, Monday, and Thursday. Leroy's Tavern also features a $6 daily lunch special from 10:30 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, featuring a sandwich, fries, or onion rings, or a 7-inch pizza and a non-alcoholic drink for just $6. Be part of the karaoke fun every Friday and Saturday night. Leroy's Tavern, a West Side tradition for 50 years at 2659 Mount Vernon.
Hey, this is Jordan Halls, former Indiana Hoosier. Keep up with Indiana sports on Indiana Sports Beat.
Oh no, I've said too much.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat, coming to you here from the Golf Club Eagle Point Studios on this Monday. Dylan Sin from the Fort Wayne Journal and Gazette sitting in as he does always. Man, what you got coming up this week? A long week coming up. All this stuff you've covered. He covers Notre Dame. He's got you don't have to worry about covering Purdue right now in football. So there's that. That takes that off your plate for you.
Right. I will be this is a basketball week for me. So I'll be in Bloomington on Wednesday for IU Northwestern, then in West Lafayette on Christmas for Purdue, Maryland, and then down in Champaign, Illinois for Indiana, Illinois the day after Christmas. So it's
man.
A busy week, trotting all over the Midwest here, but it's Christmas week, so that's exciting.
No truth to the rumor that Dylan gets around on a sleigh through all those places here in this time of year.
I can neither confirm nor deny. If you see me out there, leave some cookies.
That's right. Chocolate milk, 1% chocolate milk, please. Absolutely. So now everybody's got to get ready for everything. The announcement yesterday, and another thing. How about the announcements yesterday? It took like 6 hours to find out who was going to where. I'm like, dude, what is with this? They spent 3 hours on 4 teams.
Yes. That
we already knew. Yes. And then we're like, dude, come on already.
I tweeted about this yesterday. There is no better illustration of how much they care. How little they care about every game except for the playoff, by the fact that they announced the playoff, then spent 2 hours analyzing playoff games before announcing anything else. It was just
ridiculous.
If you're an Indiana fan or even an Indiana player or coach, you probably had to be sitting there watching like, what is taking so long? Come on, dude.
I had stuff to do, man. I was busy. It wrecked my whole day because I'm like thinking, all right, noon is going to come on. They're going to show the 4, then they'll show the rest, and they'll go back and they'll talk about it like they do the NCAA basketball tournament. They lay it all out. Bam, they lay it all out. Then you go back and talk about it. It's perfect. What a continued crap show. The college football is the biggest farce in all of sports. It truly is. It has become a joke. It is a bought and sold type of deal. I think that do you want to be truthful? I think you want to look at monopolizing. They are monopolizing college football. When you limit who cannot participate in things that are worth millions of dollars, that's monopolizing. They have monopolized college football. There is not a path for a Cincinnati, for a Boise State, for those teams. They're Central Florida. There is no path for them to get into the Final Four. They can go undefeated, as they have, and not get there. So you got an Indiana team who did what they did, and look what happened. So this is a controlled environment, and I think that it needs to be looked at. When you're controlling so many dollars from public institutions, how do you not look at this?
And that's the thing is, like, there are financial incentives for making the playoff. It's $6 million, I believe, is the payout for a conference that has their team make the playoff. So Basically, the way the playoff is set up right now is there are 65 teams about that have a chance to make the playoff every year. There are 65 teams that do not have a chance to make the playoff. So if you expand, that's part of why there's so much push against expanding the playoff, is because if you expand the playoff, you've doubled the number of teams that have a chance to make it, and therefore lessened the chance that the Power 5 teams make it. So there's obviously some incentives for the Power 5 teams who have the power right now to say, hey, we don't want the group of 5 teams to have a chance, because then that lessens our chance, right? It's a zero-sum game here. So that's part of the reason the playoff hasn't expanded. What I think needs to happen, at least one temporary solution, if you're not going to expand the playoff, is to incentivize Power 5 teams to schedule a high-ranking group of 5 teams in the non-conference season. Because right now,
how do you do that? That's a great idea, but how do you do that?
No, I don't know. There are a lot of smart people in college football. You'd think they'd be able to figure out.
Where are they? Where are they?
I'm not that
They're
smart.
not on the college invitational committee. I can tell you that.
Exactly. But yeah, there has to be some kind of way to do it. And I think that's because right now there's no incentive for them to do it. And like Alabama doesn't want to schedule Cincinnati in the non-conference, because then, I mean, Cincinnati is probably not going to beat Alabama, but maybe they do. And that keeps Alabama out of the playoff, so Alabama doesn't have to schedule good teams in the non-conference, because if they win all their SEC games, they're in anyway. So what's the incentive to schedule a good team out of conference? There isn't one. And we need to create one if we're not going to expand the playoff and we want a group of 5 teams to have a chance. And I don't know what the incentive would be, but there needs to be something.
Well, and who's the team that would want to do that? Like you just mentioned, the teams at the top, no reason for them. They don't need it. The teams at the bottom, they're already playing the teams at the top, so they don't need any more aggravation. And the teams in the middle, they're trying to get out of that middle anyway, so they don't need any more aggravation. So it's such a tough deal to do that. I mean, first of all, they've got to start playing each other. Like you got to give BYU a ton of credit for at the last second picking up, going across the country to take a game that they ended up losing, and it wrecked their season. It hurt them, but give them credit for doing it. But they need to do that. Boise State needs to be playing BYU. If Coastal Carolina is going to be an upstart, Liberty's going to, you guys got to play each other at least. And I think so. But yeah, it's so tough to get those games. But I don't know what the answer is. I think that they need to just decide on a Power 5 champion or not. I mean, because that's how it is right now. If you're not in a Power 5 conference, you absolutely can't compete, or you're not allowed. You're basically not allowed to compete for a national championship. And even if you are in a Power 5, you're not allowed all the time to compete for a national championship.
Right. And that's tough because, like, so say Cincinnati goes down and beats Georgia this year, right? What is the committee going to say? Are they going to come out and say, oh, we were wrong? Of course not, right? They're going to say, oh, well, Cincinnati was a good team and they beat Georgia. Congrats to them on a great season. But there's nothing going to change because of that, even though maybe we should have reevaluated things, right? Like we should have reevaluated things when Central Florida went down and beat Auburn.
It's not about being right or wrong, though. See, it's not about being right or wrong. It's about getting what they want. That's all it is. It's not right or wrong. There is no right or wrong to them, or it's right because they got what they want. They got the teams where they wanted them to be. Doesn't matter who wins. They just want the teams getting the money and getting the positions and the prestige and all that they want, and they've done it. They've designed it. It's their design, and that's all that matters. The winners, losers are irrelevant. Look on who's where. You don't have a 3-loss team in a New Year's Six bowl if wins losses mattered. They obviously do not.
Yeah, and that's the thing, right? The whole point of going to the playoff in the New Year's Six format was because the BCS was so exclusive, right? And like we were like, well, we need a way to at the time when the playoff started, it was we need a way to let Boise State have a chance to win a national championship, right? And basically all we've done is entrenched the power conferences, and it was we tried and it hasn't worked. So now what do we try next, right? So something has to change over the next few years here. And I think this is the type of year where you have multiple undefeated group of 5 teams that clearly were not even considered. And you can make the case, well, now something has to change. It's so obvious this year that something needs to change that maybe we'll see some movement.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, it's just, I don't know what it's going to take to get change, but it's definitely needed. It's just not no one enjoys this. The fans don't enjoy this. And what's the point? The players don't enjoy this. I'd wondered how much it bothered. I'd like to have been able to ask that, like the IU players is just an example since I cover the IU team. How much it bothered them where they ended up in a bowl game, because they're playing in the Outback Bowl, which is great. It's great. It bothers them. I can tell. I saw the tweets. I saw Tywan Mullen and those guys. They're not happy, and they shouldn't be. They worked their butts off. They did everything that they were supposed to do. They've been away from their families. They've done all this COVID protocol stuff, worked so hard, and to have these people in a room screw them over without even acknowledging what all they've done. They have reason to be PO'd.
Yeah. I did like Tywan Mullen's tweet where he said, I think someone needs to explain this to me because I'm a little confused. I think we all are, Tywan.
Well, it's how he wrote it, too. He wrote it kind of funnily on purpose. Be confused how this turned out or something. Yeah, it was just funny. But exactly. It's just nuts.
Yeah.
But yeah, wow.
I liked the way Tom Allen, I liked what he said yesterday was he
typical Tom Allen response.
He refused to say, I'm upset. He was clearly upset, but he refused to say, I'm mad that we didn't get a better bowl. He's focused on the opportunity in front of you. That's what IU needs to do. And I mean, it's not going to change a whole lot, but what they can do is go down and beat Ole Miss and beat them soundly and say, see, we deserve better. And then maybe next year, people will look at Indiana and say they deserve better. And that's the first step, right? And so you can't like hang your head and say, well, we're playing in a game that we don't care about. Because then you're going to go down and get beat, and everyone will just say you're a fraud. So you have to go down and win this game. And I think that should be hopefully enough motivation for Indiana over the next 2 weeks here.
Absolutely, man. I cannot thank Dylan Sin enough. From the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette, as always, Don Fisher, the legend, voice of the Hoosiers, and Matt Taylor from the Colts, as always, joining us here on Monday on Indiana Sports Beat. We'll be back tomorrow. Mike DeCourcy, Kevin Brockway. Let's see, who else is on Tuesdays? Going through my mind real quick. Can't even remember everybody. Chronic Hoosier as well. So thanks a lot to everybody. We look forward to back. Dylan, thank you, brother. Have a great week. Merry Christmas to you, brother. Hope you have a great, fun week. Safe, be careful. And until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. Go out and do something nice for somebody. Wear your mask. And until then, I'll see you on the radio.